Could we see a significant blockbuster NHL trade between the Vancouver Canucks and Minnesota Wild, possibly involving pieces like JT Miller, Kevin Fiala, or maybe even Brock Besser? We'll have discussed that possibility. The Rangers apparently are shopping backup goaltender Alex Georgiev. Could Evander Kane return to the Sharks, or will they be able to trade him? I mean, it seems like a contract that's not tradable, but what options do they have? We also have some news on injuries, some COVID stuff, and a call-up. All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a variety of NHL news and rumors to talk about here today, including a significant potential trade that many feel are possibly being discussed here behind the scenes. We'll get to that in just a few moments. First up, a few other quick updates. One, the Toronto Maple Leafs are calling up Kyle Clifford to join the big club at the NHL level. Apparently, he was spotted with the team in Los Angeles earlier. Of course, Kings reporter John Hoven had reported on that earlier today. Then we got word that he officially was called up. I know it's a little bit of a surprise to many. I'm not sure if the team has an injury or something I haven't heard about, or if obviously they must be planning on getting him in the lineup to bring him up on a recall. But I know even as early as yesterday, Elliotte Friedman was even talking about the fact that he didn't feel Kyle Clifford was likely going to see a whole lot of NHL time, or if he did, it'd probably be later in the season. That essentially they brought in a veteran guy that they could, have that they know and are familiar with. He could play some meaningful games in the American Hockey League since he hasn't played a whole lot this year. He's only played, I believe it was 2 NHL games with the Blues before they picked him up. So that was the impression that many had, including Elliotte Friedman, and that he would probably be, just an extra option, veteran guy for the playoffs or for later in the year. But here we are already, right off the hop here, getting called up and going straight to the Leafs, which is a bit surprising. So we'll see how this works, what spots he's going to take in the lineup. I'm not quite sure as of the recording of this. I guess we'll find out soon enough and see how things go. The Minnesota Wild certainly get some more bad news with Captain Jared Spurgeon getting injured. He's going to be listed as week to week. It could be as early as next week before he comes back, but it could end up being a little bit longer. It's one of those types of injuries that I guess they just need a little bit more time to evaluate and see where things are at, but it's certainly not good. I know they were really concerned, or at least appeared they were, when he was first hurt, waiting to figure out the status and how long he was going to be out. So that's certainly better news than it could have been, but still not great, of course. And as I mentioned as well, the New York Islanders are one of the latest teams here to have the COVID situation getting worse. I mean, it's not brand new news here that they're having some issues, but it's now at a point where they had another player, which would be Zdeno Chara, enter protocol. They now gives them 7 players. I know there's many that are kind of screaming on social media about, having them be shut down instead of having to play through this. The Sharks had about, I believe it was 6 or 7 players early in the season. They didn't get shut down. The Senators did for 3 games. They had 10 players, though, in the protocol before that happened. And, some feel maybe, is that the magic number? What is the formula? There really doesn't seem to be a magic answer to what it takes to be shut down as a team. The main thing they seem to be looking at, which I guess is a case-by-case basis, is getting the virus contained to the point that they're confident it won't spread much further or kind of get it calmed down, right? Obviously, when you still have new cases popping up on a daily basis, well, clearly that's not good. But the Islanders are, greatly shorthanded at this point, and I don't know. I mean, they're going to have to play through this. They're already on a losing streak, struggling, having a bad start to their season. They've lost their first 2 home games in their brand new arena. It's not a good scene on Long Island. Lou Lamoriello did a press conference today talking to the media, talked about the possibility of making some trades. He said he's had lots of phone calls, but nothing that he really felt would help. So certainly he's either getting lowball offers or, teams offering up players with bad contracts or something that's obviously not attractive or appealing to really make the Islanders better. So he kind of laughed about it. Clearly it wasn't anything serious that was really worthwhile discussing. But he said, of course, they'll always look at trades to make the team better if it's available. Many feel like a younger mobile defenseman with some speed and some good puck moving skills would be ideal for them. Like I said, I know we've mentioned Sam Girard before. At this point, that's definitely not happening for a while. I think the Avalanche would reconsider later on, possibly as we get closer to the deadline. If Bowen Byram comes back and he's healthy, can stay healthy, I can see them maybe wanting to do a swap of Jerard for a forward. I know some people in the comments have said that's never going to happen. Jerard, to some fans, apparently is untouchable, which I don't agree with at all. Given the fact that they have Cale Makar, Bowen Byram, Devontae's, Jerard to me is like certainly expendable. At some point here, he's going to kind of be considered probably their fourth best defenseman. And when you can move that player on a good contract, it's attractive to other teams for something that's going to help in another position, like a top six forward, then you're going to probably make that move. So I think they could reconsider, but definitely not for a while. So that's definitely not something I would expect to see. The Isles certainly are looking around the league, though. I don't know what else is really out there. There's some other options. I know the names have been mentioned, but nothing to me that jumps out as being a real obvious choice. So we'll see where Lou goes, but something's got to give here soon, or this Islander season is going to be off the rails and just not be able to recover. Of course, a quick update too on Evander Kane. We have obviously we talked a little bit about this yesterday. We had word that he was spotted at a Sharks practice facilities. A lot of talk going on. Will he be back or not? Because his suspension is not far from being over. He's technically able to return here in about the next, I don't know exact day right off. I think it's like a week to 10 days from today. So it's coming right up. But the Sharks are reportedly quite content with how their season has gone. Players seem to be happier, less drama in the locker room, and there's a lot that people that think that he won't be back. But I'm not sure that they are just going to pay him to stay home either. So we'll see where that goes. But I mean, when it comes to the trading Evander Kane, Elliotte Friedman did report that as they are certainly trying. But given the fact of all the drama and the history and all the off-ice stuff, he said he felt it was pretty unlikely that anybody would take the contract, which is how I feel, and I think most people would agree with that. But he did say that the Sharks are letting it be known to all teams that are even willing to have a conversation around it. They are certainly willing to retain some salary to make it happen. So we'll see where that goes. I still think it's pretty unlikely, even at a 50% cap hit, which will get them down to around that $3.5 million range, that they would do the deal. I just don't see any team really wanting to bring that in. Too much of a PR issue and off-ice drama and potential locker room issues. Like, I don't know anybody's going to bite on that. So we'll see what happens with that. It will be a story to follow here over the next week or so as that suspension comes to a close. The Rangers are apparently shopping backup goalie Alexander Georgiev. Now, this is no big surprise. It's been reported as much as last season that he wanted out of the Rangers organization due to the lack of opportunity. Obviously, Igor Shesterkin has claimed that number one goaltending job for some time now, really ever since his arrival. It was kind of part of the reason why they decided to move on and buy out the final year of Henrik Lundqvist's contract. So, Igor's taken over there, and Georgiev doesn't have much of a role. He's not playing well either, so that certainly doesn't give him much of a value or much interest around the NHL, so it's going to be problematic. But apparently the Rangers are, obviously for their own reasons now, regardless of what Georgiev wants, they're not really pleased with how he's playing and are trying to see if they can find a way to upgrade that position. So it is reported that Chris Drury has been actively shopping to find him a new home and to find a replacement. But when your numbers are like his are, that's not an easy task to do. Thankfully, we're not talking about a guy with a big contract or a lot of term or anything of that nature. So certainly, at some point it probably will materialize. A team like Arizona or Buffalo or somebody who's a little bit more hard up for goaltending help might go down that road, because the guys they're having, especially in Buffalo right now, they're just not getting the job done. Craig Anderson's now on IR. Tokarski hasn't been doing the best. They could probably use somebody there on a short-term basis. I don't know if they'll go down that road or not, but either way, they are shopping him. I don't think it would take much of anything to get him out of the Rangers organization, but they probably would want another backup goalie in return, possibly, or they could go shopping elsewhere. There's enough of them out there that could be had probably for a cheap price. Now, before we talk about the big trade that's been rumored here today, I do want to pause for a moment and acknowledge our channel sponsor, Manscaped. Top Shelf Hockey is proud to be sponsored by Manscaped. And guess what? Hockey fans are buzzing because hockey is back. Want to know what else is buzzing? The Lawnmower 4.0 from our friends at Manscaped, who are the global leaders in male grooming, trusted by over 2 million men worldwide. I highly recommend the Performance Package 4.0, which includes their new state-of-the-art Lawnmower 4.0, as well as some other great features. The lawnmower itself has a 7,000 RPM motor, a new multifunction switch that can engage as a travel lock, gives you the ability to turn on an LED spotlight as well for a more precise shave. Also, as I mentioned on numerous occasions before, Manscaped is about much more than just a trimmer. They have everything, all aspects covered in male grooming, including some great formulations like their brand new ultra premium body wash to keep you smelling great all day long. It's certainly a big hit here. I absolutely love it. They also have other exfoliators and gels to keep all aspects of your grooming needs covered. I highly recommend you check out manscaped.com. Use promo code TSH for 20% off and free shipping. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com using promo code TSH. So thanks very much for watching our promotional content. I do greatly appreciate it. Just want to quickly reminder as well, we started a Black Friday sale for all of our merchandise. I know these hoodies have been our top selling item right here. Everything is 25% off. I'll give you a quick graphic here on the screen with the promo code, which is Top Shelf 25 for 25% off everything in the Top Shelf Hockey merchandise store. I would certainly recommend getting your purchases soon if you want to get items received before the holidays. We're getting to that point in the year now with shipping delays and everything that, sometimes you can be waiting, anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks for a lot of online orders to come in. So I would do it sooner than later to get that done, to have it as soon as possible before the holiday season. Now, let's get into the big rumor of the day. Will we see the Canucks and the Wild execute a significant, possibly even a blockbuster trade? It's been reported by Ben Kuzma of the Province, and I'll link the article in the description down below so you can have a read for yourself. But essentially, he's confirming based on his sources that the Minnesota Wild have definitely been in touch with the Vancouver Canucks on the availability of JT Miller. Now, in the past, we've heard all kinds of rumors about Brock Besser. He's been mentioned in trade rumors. For the bulk of the time, he's been a Canuck, really, ever since he's come out of college and signed. There's been a lot of talk, especially being from Minnesota himself. It's surprising that the main player mentioned here isn't Brock, but it's Miller. Miller's been a steady force for the Canucks, even though they've had a terrible season themselves. He's been working hard and still getting up, his normal production numbers, so he's still playing well, and he's still only 28 years old. He'll be 29 into the new year, like in the spring, I believe it is. Still has this year and next year on his contract at $5.25 million. So for what he brings you, to me, it's decent value. Now, it's also been reported, though, in this article that he believes Kevin Fiala is the piece being dangled by the Wild to make the trade happen. Kevin Fiala is a pretty young, exciting player, 25 years old, certainly dynamic, but at times inconsistent, currently kind of dealing with a bit of a slump. Seems to be coming out of it here a little bit lately, but still, Fiala is a player that's, I guess you could say, can be a little bit of an acquired taste, can be, difficult at times. He certainly came into the NHL with the Nashville Predators. Miller and Fiala are both former first-round picks, drafted in similar spots a few years apart. Fiala is 3 years younger than Miller, so there's a bit of an age difference there. But Fiala, apparently, during his time in Nashville, which is kind of what I suspected back when he was first traded from Nashville to Minnesota, and based on what guys like Jeff Merrick and Elliot Friedman said in a recent podcast, kind of makes sense that, he's kind of can rub people the wrong way. He comes off as an overly confident person. So I guess they didn't say it, but they're kind of hinting at basically being cocky, and to the point that it can be hard to deal with, and that's kind of what forced him out of Nashville. And we know that contract negotiations between General Manager Bill Guerin and Fiala and his agent over the offseason were extremely difficult and did not go well. They settled on a 1-year deal. I said myself that they were so far apart in talks based on what was being reported. I would not be shocked at all at that point, just based on that alone, that Fiala could be moved. Obviously, between he and Kaprizov, the two big RFAs for the Wild last year, Kaprizov got a longer-term deal done. He's going to be there for some time. But Fiala, on the other hand, is apparently being dangled. And that's not a case, I don't think, that they're trading him or trying or considering, I should say. Not that they are for sure. But I don't think this is because he's been in a slump. This is just because they're trying to make their team better at the end of the day. And they know that this contract negotiation is going to be coming up again next year. And, if they can get a guy like Miller or Brock, why wouldn't they do that, right? Now, will Jim Benning do this kind of deal? When it comes to Miller, you can maybe make an argument, I think, that Fiala and Miller are going to have similar stats, 3 years younger, similar money, but will Fiala's next contract be more than that? Hard to say. It's I don't know. I'm not really sure either team gets better. It's certainly, you can make the argument that it'd be a hockey trade just for the matter of shaking things up. Now, for Vancouver, a deal like that makes sense to shake things up because things are going really, really poorly. And Minnesota's side of things, though, I'm not sure they really need to do that. So if they're really at a point with Fiala that they want to move him for a lot of other reasons when it comes to contract and off-ice stuff, then maybe you do make that deal. Now, will Brock Boeser's name be brought up again? Like, it seems like any other time we've heard Minnesota looking at the Canucks, that's always what's come up, to bring the hometown boy back to Minnesota. But at this point, you have to think that his name will come up. But according to this article, it was mainly centered around Miller, these conversations. Of course, Boeser still needs a new contract coming up. He's not performing quite as well as Miller this year, but still a very talented hockey player who's fairly young still, can still have a lot of good years with a lot of good production. So we will see where this goes, but this could be a significant deal, and there could be other pieces. Would it be Miller and Boeser in a package deal even for Fiala and maybe more? Like, would Minnesota include like a Matt Dumba, for example? He was a player that was mentioned in trade rumors on the blue line because mostly due to expansion. But when you look at their blue line with Brodin and Spurgeon and Dumba, they moved on from Ryan Suter, so I wouldn't think Dumba would necessarily be available. But I guess if they can bring in these two forwards, if they feel it makes them a better team, is that something they would consider? I don't know. That's just my speculation. Dumba wasn't necessarily mentioned here, but I know he's a player that was mentioned on trade rumors a lot before. So would they do? And the other thing too is that Vancouver could certainly use some different blue liners that are certainly stronger in what they have. So I can see the appeal in that regard too, right? So it could be a potential big deal if they continue talking and get something done. But if I'm Jim Benning, I'm going to be awfully careful here because you can't afford to screw this up and get it wrong because that's going to be attached to you for the rest of your life, for one. So it's going to be, if it turns out to be a horrible trade, then that's going to, stay with you, and it could hurt the Canucks long term. So I would imagine that even though he's probably going to be making some deals, if he's not let go himself, that Aquilini's probably going to be involved in the ownership level to okay things, at least you would think, where he's, obviously dealing with a lot here. So we'll see where things go. Let me know your thoughts down below. We'll discuss further. If you're new to this channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the latest news, rumors, and analysis on all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.